Good morning, my dear students. Today we are going to see little more details about letter of credit. Last video we have given the basic understanding of letter of credit. This video we are going to talk about various parties involved in letter of credit and operation of LC. Let us understand the various parties involved in the letter of credit. There are 8 parties involved in the letter of credit. Before we go into the definition or details of various parties, we will see the basic definition of letter of credit. The letter of credit defined as an undertaking issued by the bank for the account of the applicant to make the payment to a beneficiary. Beneficiary here means seller, exporter. It depends on the document submitted by the exporter. The LC defines the various documents to be submitted. The exporter submits various documents and then the importer bank will make the payment to the exporter bank. In other words, a letter of credit substitutes the bank creditworthiness, which generally known as or easily ascertainable for that of his customer. Let's see applicant or opener. A bank which opens a LC or the importer bank or a bank which opens on behalf of the applicant or we call it as importer is called applicant bank and importer is called applicant. Issuing bank, a bank which issues the LC or a bank which undertakes to make the payment to the beneficiary is called issuing bank. Beneficiary is nothing but exporter who is getting benefited out of this transaction. Beneficiary is normally a seller who receives a payment from buyer or buyer bank. Advising bank, a bank which advises the LC. Advising bank normally situated in the place or country of beneficiary. Conforming bank, a bank which conforms a LC to the exporter bank or a beneficiary. This is optional. The conforming bank is nothing but a bank which gives an additional confirmation. When it is required, the LC issuing bank is unknown to the exporter, another reputed bank which confirms the LC. Negotiating bank, a bank which negotiates a document received under LC, is called negotiating. Nominated bank or paying bank, a bank which makes the payment under a letter of credit, is called paying bank. Reimbursing bank, a bank which reimburses the charges, or the bank which makes reimbursement of the claim under the LC is called reimbursing bank. Now we will see the operation of LCs. We have seen there are 8 parties involved in the LC. The first action is there is a sale contract between buyer and seller. The buyer which applies LC to the importer bank or issuing bank. Based on that, the opening bank or issuing bank, one among the same, issue the LC to exporter bank. The LC is advised to the seller. The next action is the seller or the exporter receives the LC. Based on the receipt of LC, send the goods to buyer, that is action number 5. The action number 6, the seller parallelly sends the document to exporter bank. Exporter bank makes the claim. Exporter bank makes the claim. Now the buyer makes the payment to his bank or importer bank or issuing bank. In turn, issuing bank, based on the verification of a document, sends a payment to exporter bank. Exporter bank remits the payment to importer. Clearly understand, the shipment happens to the applicant country. The document comes to exporter bank. Exporter bank makes the claim to the importer bank. In the meantime, the buyer or the importer makes a payment to importer bank and the payment goes back to exporter bank. So, this is the way LC operates. The one should thoroughly understand the flow. One should understand thoroughly the various steps involved, the chronological order of the steps. You cannot change the steps. This is the way the LC should operate. It is all defined in UCPDC. We call it as Uniform Custom Practices for Documentary Credit. So before we negotiate or structuring of a LC, what are all the key points one should look at? There are 20 points of negotiation in structure of LC. The first point, it should be irrevocable confirmed letter of credit. Second one is you should know issuing date, expiry date and location. Third point, you should know who is the issuing bank, advising bank. Information about importer, exporter. What is the value of LC, at what currency LC is issued? What is the description of goods, nature of services? The required documents like LC, bill of lading, invoice, insurance, etc. Payment terms, it is usance, demand. Inco terms, international commercial terminology applicable for particular LC. Port-to-port information. UCP guidelines. What is my fees? Who will pay? Latest shipment date. Presentation of document date. Whether it is partial shipment or full shipment. Whether it is transshipment. Transshipment means it is going from one country to another country, or it is going directly from exporter to importer. Who is the paying bank? Who is the drawee bank? Who is the reimbursing bank? Who is the confirming bank? These are all the bare minimum points one should know, understand before structuring of LC. I hope it is very clear to all of you about the operation of LC. Watch 2 times to 3 times to understand further. Any information or doubts, please mark your doubts in the comment section in my YouTube channel. Those who are not subscribing it till, please subscribe it.